Hello, this is our Rats with Team 4545 League, analyzing the game between Christian 1974 and Nidison 2. This was played in Team Event 53, Round 4, under 1600 section. So let's have a look, huh? Okay. Closed Sicilian. A lot of people are just afraid to discuss the main theories. Well, that's alright. Nothing wrong with this. I've often played bishop c4 here myself. That tends to take black out of his book, but black can just continue normally, a6 and b5, and either e6 and g6, and continue castle kingside. And that's kind of what's happening. So here, interesting choice. Do we take, or do we just move the knight? There's something to be said about moving the knight, because it won't open up the f-file for white's use. And if black takes on, or white takes on d6, black develops his bishop as a result. So let's see. Let's see what black does. He took. Now white can take with the f-pawn, and he does. Now I'd be inclined to play knight d5 here, simply because it centralizes the knight, and we can always pressure e5 later. That's what he does. Good move. Okay, now white goes knight e4. So it's black's got some interesting choices here. He can play b5 and the bishop has to come back, or take and displace this knight on e4. But a good thing about that is that black will soon fianchetto his bishop and get it activated on the long diagonal. And black can still play bishop e7 and castle, and just has to watch out his king doesn't get checkmated. See what happens. Okay, b5. Now he has to come back. Oh, look at that. This guy's reading my mind. I mean, I played over this game a while ago, but I don't remember all the moves. I just remembered the main concepts and so forth, and he's thinking like I do. Good job. Okay. Now, let's see if white thinks like I do. Alright, candidate moves. d4, or castles. d3 is possible also, just so it opens up a line for the bishop, but soon enough castling is going to happen. Okay, d3, got one of them. Now, bishop e7, or knight d7. I would go for bishop e7 just to get the king ready to castle. Yep, there it is. Now white should castle. There it is. Black should castle. Oh! Okay. Now, I'm not criticizing this move. I'm just but I'm gonna think about it here. This is a move that people make out of impulse, and I'm not saying it's the best move here. It spends the tempo, it weakens the king side, and I've often shown it's not necessary. It's better to just develop. Okay, for the moment, what's black afraid of? He's afraid of black's afraid of white putting something on g5. Okay, so let's just castle and start a discussion. Okay, white has three pieces he can put on g5, right? Correct. Now, black didn't have to castle. He could have played knight d7, but knight fg5 would have exposed f7. So we'll just castle and hold knight d7 back. Now, white has three candidate moves to put on g5. If he puts the bishop there, it really doesn't do much, and white can just, or black can just trade it. So let's just get that out of the way. Okay, take it. Now, which way are you going to take back? I guess with this knight. Now, the queen isn't ready to get to h5 and threaten mate, right? e5 is loose. So from here, black can develop a knight and keep the long diagonal open. Now this pawn is loose. How's white going to guard it? He might have to come back knight f3. So that this just isn't working for white at all. Okay, this is a possible line to look at. Okay, let's go back and castle. So let's try this knight to g5. Well, no, let's try the other one. Okay, let's just ignore it. Let's play knight d7. Now, how's white going to follow up? Let's try queen e1 with the idea of queen h4. Okay? But you got to be careful about queen h4, because then h6 comes in with a pin. So let's just continue and play queen c7. Now it seems if queen h4, h6 is a problem. Okay? And I don't think white has enough here to justify this. So maybe queen g3. The idea is to hang on to this pawn for a while. Okay, now's the time to go ahead and play h6, and white's wasted time moving that knight around. But then h6 is hanging. So let's see, what's a good candidate move for black here? He might consider f6 here, and here's the reasoning behind it. Oh, you got to be careful though. Black has white has the Zwischenzug, but maybe we can survive that. Okay, I want to trade queens. Now the Zwischenzug is here. Now we have to put the king. Well, we can take the pawn because the rook's. White has to stop and collect the queen first. Okay, now white's got double pawns and black plays up. Now both sides have some weak pawns, but the attack is over, and almost every black piece is developed. Okay, so something to analyze. And as I said, I think this move tends to okay, castle. I think knight fg5 tends to unprotect e5, and black can just go in and start counterattacking it. So I'm going to criticize h6 here. I don't think it's the best move, but it doesn't hurt black. It's just that get the pieces out first, and then we can do things. Okay, so white plays d3 or b3, and pressure on the pawn. Now where to put the knight? That is the question. Guess he's got to go to b5 or b6, b4 or b6. Okay, b4, that's fine. And now we have this peculiar arrangement on the e file. If white puts something on e1, we have what we used to call bingo. There's a whole line of pawns and pieces on that file, and what happens is there's a series of exchanges on the e file here, and it stays with 7 in a row. It's kind of amusing. It's kind of rare to see. Okay, so white has a backward d pawn. He might consider trying to move it at some point, and then he can always take back on c4 with his bishop. His bishop needs a little air. This bishop on e2 has no legal move, so he could play e4 is hanging. You got to prepare it. Okay, so a3, kick the knight. Now white's crawling all over f4 or e5. Okay, now d4, and it seems to me like black's going to win some material here. And this knight is loose. There's a few tricks in here. So pawn takes is fine. And now knight takes. And now, as I said, the e5 pawn falls. So black's managed to win his pawn, and he didn't even have to castle. So remarkable. And here's the arrangement on the e file. It's still there, and it stays there. Watch this. Isn't that funny? We've had several exchanges on the e file, then each one of them kept 7 chessmen on those squares. But what's happened is black has now won a pawn, and the game is turning in his favor rapidly. So just think how much better his game might have been had he not played h6, because white didn't come up with any kind of attempt to attack the king side, so black got away with it. So I can't criticize it after all, I guess. If it worked, I didn't really see a direct line for white anywhere else. It is solid. It's just that my general rule is not to do such things. Okay, so now white's gone down to a 2-on-1 majority on the queen side, but it's not really going to help him. He's faced with a 4-on-2 on the king side, but at least he's getting his guys out. And then white goes ahead here real quick and commits a tactical flaw that black fails to take advantage of. I'll show you here in a moment. It's not there yet, but it's almost. Okay, here's the point where what black played was fine, but stop the video. Black to play and do the best he can. Okay, you've resumed the video. What did you come up with? Okay, the key trick move here is to play knight f3 check. Now, it doesn't matter how you handle this. You can take it with the bishop. Let's just take it with the bishop for the fun of it. Okay, now you take this with check, and then you take this, or you can take on A1 first. Well, no, you have to take on F3 first. Okay, now how's White going to respond? He's down a piece on the board, and he has a rook and a knight under attack. It would seem to me the only move is rook C1, and Black can do a lot of things here. Just bishop D5, and Black's dead winning. Okay. And there's some other variations in there needing to go into them. But what Black does is okay. He just castles. And he's still got an advantage, but it's going to take another goof by White to make this decisive. And it's coming up right about here. Okay, so now Black takes on D4. And material is even, but both sides have a rook loose. And White takes his, Black takes his. And here's where White gets a little carried away. What he needs to do is just take the bishop on A1, but he gets greedy, and unfortunately this drops this piece, and White really doesn't have a useful discovery to take advantage of it, and he can't. If he takes on A1, F7 falls, so he gives a check, and now Black just brings his piece back, and if he didn't have the interposition, White would have regained the piece. Maybe White missed it, so Black wins his piece anyway. So the rest of the game really just kind of peters out into nothing, and Black's just increasing his advantage. Now he says, I'll trade rooks, and now just a matter of winning that pawn on B3, and the game is over. And Black can do that with king C5 and B4, or he can just run that pawn. You know, it almost doesn't matter what Black does. Yeah, he's just getting that pawn up the board. That just provides a way for the king to get a little closer to the action. Yeah, gee, giving up a pawn, but there's nothing White could really do. But Black doesn't even need to take it. Ouch. That hurts. And he can take on G4, and White decided to give it up. So it's a good game by Black. White just got a little carried away. Let's just, since we have a couple of minutes left, let's just go back to move, let's see, when White played B3 after H6. What else could White do? So we have to take off 36 moves, so back 72. It's a neat little feature on Blitzen. Takes us almost back. I guess I went too far. I didn't add it right. Okay. What else can White do here? Alright. His only weak point is E5, and it's similar to French defense positions where White piles up on E5. The first thing you got to think about is development, and that is what White thought about. He did put his bishop on B2, which helps defend that pawn, but later that pawn became lost because Black just piled up on it. Since Black has lost a tempo, and this bishop isn't doing much good. What about Queen E1? Now the idea here is if ever Black plays Knight B4, we're going to drop the bishop back to D1 to keep it out. Okay. So let's suppose that Black doesn't castle and just continues on his way. Then White has Queen G3, and there's a threat down here, and Black can't castle. Okay, so probably the question that White should have put to Black was start moving his pieces over to the king side and take advantage of the fact that Black has spent a tempo with H6, and then Black won't be winning the pawn as he was, and White's got a playable game. And F7 is still a problem. So let's just back up. Okay, what I was saying was queen e1. Let's go ahead and castle. And now you see there's the threat, and now we have to spend another tempo to deal with that. So king h8, I suppose. And now it's white's turn. So what's white going to do? Going to try to get another piece into action. Can he do any kind of a sacrifice on h6? Probably not. Can he do any kind of a sacrifice on f6? Probably not. But if anything, yeah, one problem with it, with the knight on going to f6 here is, if anything, black can just decline it with a move like knight takes, and then just settle for winning a pawn rather than have to look at a complicated sacrifice by white. So, you know, white's got this lead in development simply because he's got more pieces over on the king side than black does, but his two bishops, they're just not doing him much good. They get traded off or can't move, so maybe it's time for a move like h4. And the purpose of this is that maybe if we're lucky, we can try a maneuver of king f2 and rook h1, maybe move the queen and play g4. I mean, not together, but a combination thereof, and try some sort of a pawn assault on the black king. And it's with the rook on h1, that's one of those things where maybe the knight can go to g5 and you can sacrifice that piece, because you take black takes on at g5, white takes back, and there's a check, and the king has to go back to g1, and maybe the queen and rook can double up on the rook file and give a mate. Of course, black doesn't have to take on g5, but that'll become a very nice piece for white. Or, like as I was saying, just, okay, play h4. Now let's continue black's development. Knight d7. Now let's try queen h3. Now what's black going to do? Pile up on e5? Makes sense. Well, we'll give up the pawn that we're trying to checkmate. Trying to checkmate black. And this is just a fantasy line to see where it could go. And now white is threatening to win this pawn back on h6. So how does black handle this? He's taken time to win a pawn, but can he really hold on to that pawn? And it looks like probably he can't. But he could play h5 here, and the drawback with that is that now that pawn becomes a target. White can play knight takes, queen takes, and then gobble the pawn. And maybe white's got some compensation here. So none of this was forced. It's just a fantasy line that I like to play out just as a preliminary look at it. And then it's up to the players to start dissecting the position a little deeper and satisfy themselves. And this is one of the things I suggest when I have you analyze your games. You're not going to see everything the first time through, and this is just one line. There's a myriad of other lines, because each move there's 2 or 3 other candidate moves to examine, and you can fill up a page of analysis and spend a couple hours very easily. But by doing this, it's going to improve your game, because you're looking at tactics, you're looking at ideas, and seeing things that work and things that don't work. And in the course, you'll make mistakes in the analysis, and that's one of the things that happens with me when I'm analyzing these games on the fly, so to speak. I look at them a couple times through before I actually make the video, but I like to leave most everything up to the players. I'll just give you a few ideas, but here it's the outcome's in doubt. White's threatening to take another pawn on f7, and once black deals with that, white has a new idea, and that's to retreat the bishop and shove his h-pawn. So maybe it's time for black to spark the king back on g8, and then maybe this bishop comes all the way back. It could go to e2, but he could also go to d1. White may not be getting his rook in into action right away. Let's try it on e2. Now, what's black going to do? White's plan is to play h5 and h6. So black needs a plan here. And I'm not sure exactly what it is. Maybe this knight needs to just go ahead and threaten this pawn so that now you can take this guy off. So I don't know, maybe white needs to play bishop d1 after all. You know, I guess sometimes we can dispense with some moves just by looking at alternatives. So maybe bishop d1 is needed here. But suppose black just goes about and does something similar. Let's put the knight on c6. That way maybe it can come to d7 and hop over to f8 at the right moment if f8 clears. And now black is threatening to play bishop takes e4, although white has a pin with it. But you got to be careful about g5. It could fall, so maybe now's time to just, we can't really move the knight because you got to support g5. Like I say, or maybe just queen g4, and you're still getting ready for h5, h6. And I don't know whether this is good or not, but at least white's looking at ideas, and that's something that white could have had instead of what he did, was take advantage of the loss of the black tempo with h6 and start going for a kingside attack instead of just casually developing pieces with no clear plan in mind. Okay, so good game. Both players there were definitely opportunities. There are always opportunities. We don't play perfectly. It's just a matter of taking a post game and tearing it to shreds. And I've got you started. The rest is up to you guys. And if you want to improve, you will if you start analyzing games. And this is the purpose. One of these purposes of the videos is to stimulate your mind, show you some ideas and themes, but most of it you have to learn on your own. I mean, I show it to you, you don't learn, but I show you some ideas and you get your thinking cap on. You sit down, you work at the game, and you're going to get better. That's how it works. It worked for me, so it's got to work for you if it worked for me. All right. Thanks so much for your time. We'll talk to you all soon. Take care.